talking about the reason why we voyage, right? And what I can best summarize is there were three main objectives of the worldwide voyage. First was to become an advocate for the stewardship of the world's oceans, right? You heard Nainoa talk about how important the world's oceans are to our making this planet habitable. We live on a blue planet. If you look from space, if you look at our planet, it's 2/3 of it is covered with water. But it's really by coincidence that our planet is blue. Yeah. We live in a place called a Goldilocks zone. In other words, here on this planet, we're 94 million miles away from the sun. If we're like Mercury, like only 27 million miles away from the sun, all water would be turned into vapor and gas. And if we were like Mars, which is 130 million miles away from the sun, everything would be frozen over. So we live in a place that's really the sweet spot in the solar system that allows water to form. So 2/3 of the world's oceans is liquid, and it goes without saying that without the blue on the planet, there is no green. There is no green on the planet. The world's oceans is the #1 incubator for oxygen. Everybody take a deep breath. Can you imagine 50 years from now, if you take that same breath, if we keep on this trend of not taking good care of the world's oceans and the planet, you're not going to be able to take in as much oxygen. And it's the world's oceans is also the #1 regulator for climate change. Yeah, it controls climate. So that's the first objective. The second objective, as best as I can tell, was to become an education clearinghouse for collecting stories of different organizations and schools and projects and programs that were working to do good stewardship around the planet. OEV TV and Naleo Anthony's company would gather stories and post them on the PVS website so that at the end of the voyage you would have a collection of stories that demonstrated that there's actually a global network of like-minded community groups that are doing good stewardship work. And you would see that there's a network that exists around the planet. And third, and there was a lot of objectives, but I think this kind of resonated with me, was to meet, learn, and engage with indigenous populations of the communities we visited. So any country that we visited, we made a first-hand attempt to engage with the indigenous people first of the land, because they are the people that been in habitation of those communities the longest. So like when we arrived in Florida, we went to what tribe was that? Seminole. We went to the Seminole tribe first, and we went to Western Florida. We didn't go to the east side of Florida. We went to Western Florida in the Everglades to meet and to be greeted for the first indigenous people of the land. Because the indigenous people have the longest and oldest relationship with the places we were privileged to visit. So to begin the conversation, really the principal driver for the worldwide voyage was the communications arm of the voyage. My question goes to Naleo. How many video pieces did you produce for the worldwide voyage?
Counting updates and everything, probably a couple thousand.
Couple thousand, wow.
Yeah.
And
we shot 4,500 hours of video.
And really, I mean, I know that the trip was full of challenges for you, because in Hawaii it's not too much an issue. You got your station, you got a place where you can upload. But as we started to move around the world, you had to become mobile. You had to figure out how you're going to get all that information and those pieces that you shot back for distribution. So can you just talk about some of the challenges that you faced?
When the canoe came back from the first voyage in 1976, in 1977, Hokule was on the front page of American Cinematographer, the full body shot of the canoe, and they had this whole story about how did they do all of this filmmaking on board such a wet vessel. And 40 years later, we're still dealing with all the same issues. There's not a lot of power. It's mostly DC power. There's really no dry space. So we were working out of Pelican cases for 3 years to keep all the equipment dry. And then the question of bandwidth. So here, right, if you take a picture, you send it to Facebook, there's a cell tower nearby. and you have 4G LTE, and you can just send the photo. Once you leave probably an hour that way by boat, all that goes away. And so the only thing that's left is satellite. And satellite data, when it first started, was very expensive. And it's come down in price slowly over time, but what we ended up having to do was we bought an unlimited satellite plan. Like, you know how you have like an unlimited cell phone plan? We bought that for the satellite to be able to push data every day. It's very slow, so we would push material overnight. We would have to rough edit things just on the canoe and then send stuff back for them to finish. But we ended up, in some countries, having the fastest internet service on the canoe. So like in the Galapagos, in the hotel, it was like 10 times slower than what we were getting on the canoe. So it was full of challenges, but I think that's what made it the most fun, was that we were going to places where nobody had tried to do daily or live service back to our audiences.